Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Um, Suka, if you can hear me, you and David do a thumbs up.
Can you hear me? Yes.
I can hear you. Okay, great.
I'll mute.
Uh, okay. I am trying to see how I'm viewing everybody. I only see Suka. I don't see Heartwood. Let me try full screen. Okay, I can. Okay, I see Heartwood. Oh, that's a shame. Everybody's in there in the Dharma hall with their coats on. Okay, are we ready? I'm gonna go ahead and see if we could start with um, incense burning. That would be good. I'm gonna be switching out from the Zoom to a document that I have online from time to time. Uh, but I think I can come right back. Oh, I have both documents on the screen now. I'm good. All right, let's open up if we can with incense burning. And you can just uh if we can do it. If we can't, let me know. Okay, I will just start singing. Oh, there it is. Great. Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage, we offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. So today I just wanted to give us a brief encouragement. I know people have things to do, preparing for guests and so forth, but I was so deeply touched today in my gratitude for having encountered Buddha Master in this life, and not only encountering him, but ultimately the good fortune ripening that I could finally, after knowing of him and having met him for 15 years, continuing in my own way, having the ripening of karma that I could listen to his words and be changed. And I think about how I have failed to seize the essence of this precious human life. And the only way that you can correct, like some mistakes you can correct and you can redeem the time. Some mistakes you make, it's a done deal. So you're not going to be able to do much in correcting it. But one thing that we can do is we can pass along that which we have finally realized. And it's one of the greatest gifts that we can give to others. So, so that they won't make the same mistakes that we made, and so that they can live more fully and more completely, and so that they can accomplish awakening in this very lifetime. And so and I'm also noticing the things that have been occurring in my relationships, um, particularly how there's becoming like one stream uh, uh, amongst us. And when I say one string, I don't mean it in a cliquish kind of way, but I mean that how we're beginning to vibrate at a certain speed, at a certain frequency, so that we're tapping in and tuning in to one another without, sort of like without even trying to. And so I had sent Master Zazi an email, because I thought about her this past week, and I told her what I thought about, and she came back and she confirmed that that was something that had been on her mind and heart as well. And it was amazing to me that how on one level outwardly there seems to be some I won't say contention, I will say differences of views or perceptions that wrangle, that create some disturbance in the field, that keep a full harmony from flowing. And yet at another level, there is something happening in spite of maybe our individual contrariness and stuckness, or that is happening, that's creating a new condition and a new energy that's ultimately going to rise to the surface. It's going to rise to the surface. It's down deep now, but it takes that transformation down under. It takes that transformation very deep, and it takes time for it to rise to the surface where it's so readily observable to us in the mundane world. Do you understand what I mean? I mean that when we are preparing and developing, it's like by the time the baby appears, a mother has gone through a lot of processes over 9 months to produce that appearance. That's what I'm saying. So sometimes we are looking for something and it's not apparent on the surface, yet the seeds of change have transformed one in the inner spaces. And we just need to have enough patience to allow it to rise to the surface. And we need to have enough confidence in the truth of the Dharma to reveal and edify and support transformation. So transformation has to be a greater ideal or thought in one's mind than even one's own self, because I only see myself, what I see of myself, understand of myself is all based on old stuff. What you see appearing is not the present moment in the ways that we think of it and hold to it. Actually, the present moment is just simply all the old stuff coming to the surface right now. So if one could hold that idea in mind, we wouldn't get so frustrated when we with ourselves, and we wouldn't get so frustrated with others when we don't see a level of perfection. Just know that perfection takes a long time to manifest or rise to the surface, but it doesn't mean it's not already in there working, transforming, and changing. We just have to have more patience. And that's why the Buddha Master says that patience, the cultivation, the development of patience, the discipline of patience is the highest it's the highest work that we can do. I never liked the idea of patience. I read in the Bible like 30 or 40 years ago that patience comes with tribulation. That ended it for me right there. As soon as that part about tribulation, like you have to go through things to develop patience. I said, I'll take all the other attributes and qualities, but patience, not so much. But you can't outrun it. If you are trying to make 100, 99 and a half just won't do. And we have to have that cultivation of patience. We have to go through that learning process, that period of correcting. And what it's actually correcting is it's taking us out of a, a, a kind of stuckness, a solidity. I wanted to share how I rarely get a Dharma talk, like a week or more in advance. And I didn't know what to do with it because I'm just not accustomed to getting one. So we'll just have to see how this goes today. But what actually brought about an idea to talk about was Nicole at the Miracle Temple in Pasadena sent me an article about Master Wong. Master Wong is was Buddha Master's wife. We know her or call her Great Mother Mofu, and it talked about, this was an article put out by the Royal Academy of Arts and the whole international top tier art community, uh, and it was talking about an exhibition that they did um, of her paintings, and this particular exhibition compared her paintings to Claude Monet, and it was done at the Louvre in Paris. And and the consensus was that her painting was at least comparable to Claude Monet and even surpassed Claude Monet, but they didn't know exactly how to express it, like what could be better. He's considered sort of like the father of Impressionism, and that is being able to capture, the spirit of form on the canvas. So he did a lot of water lilies, and so you had a lot of paintings that dealt with water, that deal with sky, because these things are hard to capture, on flat surface, like how to capture the essence of the depth of water or the rippling of a pond, so how it can still seem to be alive or natural when it's on a canvas. And so this Impressionism art form was credited to Monet, and there were and there were others as well, some of our greatest artists. And 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 so they came up with a conclusion that what was different about, say, her paintings and Claude Monet, his being the impressions of, or bringing about the spirit of form in a capturable way, um, that um, what was it about hers that was different? And so they came to the conclusion that hers produced a continual change in form and the spirit of all matter. So what she painted was, there's a saying, you can't dip your hand in the same river twice, because the river's always flowing. And so if you could imagine having some artwork where you got the sense of the movement and the aliveness of the water, and that would be one thing. But suppose every time you looked at it, it looked different because you also captured the life of it uh, in such a way that it continues to move. I don't know. I don't know if y'all are hearing me today and understanding what I'm trying to express, because I'm doing such a poor job at it. But maybe if you think on it, you will. It's just that when you look at the water, you can see like the movement of the water, and that's one thing. But if you were to try to touch it or capture it, you know that that's not the same water that you look at, because that has already moved downstream. And so her paintings inspired the top artists societies in the world as being of this kind, having more than just being able to capture the spirit of form, but the continual change in in form. Now, I was thinking, how do I take that? Because I'm not an artist and I don't even really have a lot of appreciation for art, what is considered the highest art. I'm a real dullard in that category. I mean, these paintings that sell for millions of dollars, I just don't get it. But I tried to relate that to what I do get and what is for me, you know. And then I started thinking about the how we have misunderstood and misapplied in the West, um, the instructions on mindfulness and what it has done to us, and how it's going to take a lot for us to come out of this. I hope this is being recorded. And how it's going to take a lot for us to come out of the damage that has been done, because we have this idea that sitting in meditation is sitting like a bump on the log, and that we're uh, on a log, and that we're cutting off, all of our uh, feelings, and we're cutting off, this uh, disconnecting from our form, and we're shutting down perception, and giving up, abandoning will, and we're uh, discounting, not feeling, not tapping into any kind of sensory consciousness, and it's completely wrong, simply because we haven't understood, because it was pulled out of the context of the whole counsel of the Dharma. And in that way, because of that, it was connected to something else in the mundane world, our partly our psychological and our scientific understanding of the world from a mundane side. And because of that, our mundane understanding obscured the spiritual significance and way of understanding and practicing the methods for their full utilization. And so we've ended up in a kind of nihilistic kind of practice where one is sitting there dropping off everything instead of penetrating through and seeing the fluidity and a constant changing of everything without there being any attachment to it. So that's sounds like a very small difference of perception, but it is actually the complete difference between nihilism and marvelous existence. And if we don't really work at this, we will miss it. And it's my great desire that we don't miss it. What that and with along with her paintings, there's four. I learned just to learn this. There are four classes of ink painting art. There are four classes of mastery, and they are the level of proficiency, the level of wonderment, the level of divinity, and the level of ease. Proficiency, wonderment, divinity, and ease. Now, I said I was trying to take, because I'm not an artist, I was wondering, like, well, am I supposed to take some art classes so I can get an appreciation for art and maybe that'll open the door? And I said, like, no, you have your own talents, your own skills, your own abilities, your own interests. Look at those and see how you can overlay the principle, to increase and rise to the standard of what you have to offer to the world. So Buddha Master had said, okay, make sure that you, he gave us the title of the name of the university, called it Learning, Shushan, which means correct cultivation, learning from Buddha Academy. And he said, and you have to have the 5 Vidya school. He said, that's most important. You have to have the 5 Vidya school. So we couldn't figure out what the 5 Vidya school is exactly. We're still coming to a gradual understanding of what the five Vidyas are. And they speak of the qualities, excuse me, they speak of the qualities and the capacities of enlightened beings, of awakened beings. And so it means having an excellence that's beyond ordinary, so having a supernormal excellency in the works that you do in the world, whether you're a butcher, no, I shouldn't use that one, a baker, I'll just say a baker or a cabinet maker. Okay, so it doesn't matter how low you think your occupation is, or how high you think your occupation is. Whatever it is that you do, that you execute as your service to the world, should be of a certain degree of proficiency that supersedes what the ordinary mind can create and produce and exhibit. So in this world, they're called Wu Ming, or the brightnesses that affect the world. You know how sometimes a song can come forth, and that song can be like a wave that washes over the whole world, and everybody's singing that song. I remember when the Beatles came out with Imagine, and it was a song that touched people worldwide, and it gave people hope that we could be better than we are. And we can think of many songs like that. So it's not just in the field of art or in the field of music. There can be a particular movie. So someone who's a movie producer, someone who is an actor in that movie, someone who's behind the scenes handling the technical aspect. You see how we're living in a technical age. You see how important technology is. We're not going to reach nearly as many people in person. We might do good to have 25 people on a great Dharma day in our Dharma hall, but we can reach hundreds and could potentially reach thousands and tens of thousands of people with the good news via the internet. Uh, if we see that through a dharmic eye, if we see that through the lens of having uh, of Dharma and it being Dharma work and being what can save uh, living beings. But if we don't, then it's just, it's just IT work. Um, or we're doing something because it makes us feel good, or we like, a particular genre or whatever. But when we start committing and dedicating everything to the Dharma, as opposed to our personal preferences of what we like, what we want to do, and how we want to do, we're going through that period of right now, that period of laying down our preferences of what we like, what we want to do, and how we want to do it. And it's tough, but if we recognize that that's what it is, then it will be easier for us to go through it. It'll be easy. We can sail through these what seems like difficult times of adjustment if we look at them through a different lens, a lens where we are learning how to shift and how to change. So they said that what made Great Mother Mofu's paintings even superior to Claude Monet was that his had an ability to capture the impression of form, the spirit of the form, but hers offers a continual change in form, so that things are always changing. And what it says to me from a Buddhic perspective is that perception should not be fixed, but it is a flowing experience rather than um, uh, 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 a stable, fixed understanding. And that can be hard for us because once we're like a dog with a bone. Once we latch on to something, some view, some understanding that has benefited us, that's greater than what we had, then that becomes our new thing, and we latch on to that tenaciously, and we go and find everything that agrees with that, and that becomes, our new fetter. That becomes the latest thing that we are tied to. And so this is the encouragement that all of experience, all of life should be flowing, and then we don't get, actually, the only thing I used to think that, our perceptions were based on a fixed conception of something. But in looking at this today, I'm seeing it from the reverse. I'm seeing that instead of us having, a view and fixing around it tenaciously, or having a understanding of something, a teaching of something, and grasping tightly to that, it's more like we have a perception of something that forms a conception of a fixed idea of how something absolutely is, because we see it one way today, and now that locks into our mind, and that's how it is. But you see, that actually came up through the through the five aggregates of material form and feeling, perception, volition, our acting on those feelings and perceptions, and our sensory consciousness. And I'm saying sensory consciousness now. to not confuse those who are looking at things that they call higher consciousness, or and where we might be talking about prajna imputing on the mind stream, on the ordinary mind stream. So in other words, our understanding and our views come from, this coming together of material form and feeling perception, and how we act on it. Now, if that's the case, then when we cut that off in meditation, we're practicing a time of nihilism. And as soon as we come out of meditation, then we're right back with our 5 aggregates of form, feeling, perception, volition, and sensory consciousness. And it's the only way that we can survive in the world, is that these are active. So when we go into those times and we're cutting that off, separating ourselves from it, it's like not a real thing. It's what the Buddha himself called like a dead thing, a dead kind of emptiness. And he called it nihilism. And he said, and that's not what I teach. So people who have not understood what he taught teach this. They don't call it nihilism. They say it's not nihilism. But once you cut off the 5 aggregates in that way, it is nihilism, in fact. And then you come back to yourself, and so you have this dichotomy. But the Buddha was trying to show us how to enter into a space where the 5 aggregates were not cut off, but that the fetters were cut. And that's a difference than the aggregates themselves, that the fetters, the tying to the fetters was released. So that speaks of a kind of transcendence, as opposed to the death of something. And you might have to listen to this a few times to see to get the subtle difference. So I wish I could give it to you in the way that I have it inside, but it's hard to put words to it. And especially when we've already established a Buddhist jargon. I mean, we have words, we have definitions for those, and they mean exactly this, the way it's been defined. And so when we have that, it's hard to, introduce another way of looking at something when you're having to use the old words that have already been defined as meaning this, or that you have this kind of view, or they carry that kind of shading or connotation. Because we then have to reinterpret the word if we're going to use the same word, or we have to come up with a new word. And that is maybe not that useful either. So we have to not be so attached to the words, but be able to look beyond the words to try pointing. That's why he was always pointing. He was never concretizing around any words or fixed view, but he was always pointing, because this thing has to remain fluid. There has the spirit of it is actually fluid. And so without thinking and holding things in this way, we will never have freedom of mind. We will never transform. We will not have the ability to transcend time. We will not have the enter into the highest possibilities. The scientists tell us, like, we, like the brain is the greatest computer, that we have capacities that we haven't even dreamed of. We think we have to make things to do those things. But I can tell you that there was a time where, and there have been many times, we're not in one of those times right now, but I believe we're coming into one of those times, because this time is ending. I think we're coming into a time where we will be able to use our higher functioning capacities to do things that we right now haven't even been able to build equipment or machinery to do. For instance, if you just study the building of the great pyramids, and we can't figure out how they were even built. We can't figure out how they were able to arrange things in such a way that one day a year the sun shines directly into the pinnacle block that takes a light down a shaft to bear on the sarcophagus of the great one that pyramid was built from. I mean, we can't. Our mathematics today can't figure it out. We can't figure out how these rock formations and images of got moved all around the place, appeared all over the world, not just in Egypt and South America, in Mexico, in um, uh, all of these different countries within South America, as well as the Eastern countries and places that we haven't even realized that they're there yet, because they're just discovering them. But it's all over the world. So there were some capacities that they had that we don't even have today. So we're thinking we're so advanced, but we go through these times of expansion and collapse based on our grasp of the true nature of reality. And awakened ones come from time to time to point and say, go that way, and you will understand something that has been lost. So what we're doing is we're rediscovering something that has been lost. We're not like just a cherry picking and conversating on what's already found. What's already found has not been enough. It has not been enough to make us a kind and gentle humanity. What we already have has not been enough to handle all of the economic difficulties and the woes that we have in this world. What we already have is not enough. So no need to regurgitate that, but we need to open ourselves up to see and to know and to understand something else. We need to transcend where we are with our ordinary mind and our ordinary conception and our ordinary levels of skill. And first of all, we have to believe that this is possible. If not, forget about it. It's nothing else to do. Just go on with what you're doing and be done with it, because this takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes the discipline to not just practice, but to actually have your practice consummate in perfect practice, so that the proficiency comes forth, and to have the mental strength and clarity, single pointedness, to keep going until one can absolutely penetrate a matter, can absolutely penetrate a thing, so that we don't have this dull kind of wishy-washy thinking. We have to have a certain kind of physical strength. I mean, I'm telling you, when the thoughts even start to move through you, they are taxing on the physical body that is not fit. I can tell you that. Sometimes just one insight will come to me in a flash, and that insight can be so powerful that it almost knocks me out. I mean, I have to go home and sleep. I had one yesterday. Maya and I were talking, and Maya, I can't even remember what the insight was. It went in and it went down deep, but that's okay, because it will rise up at the time that I need it. It's a matter of taking it in, recognizing that flash of insight and swallowing it whole body. And when it came up, I recognized that that was an insight. It was a complete shift in my normal view of something. And 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 once I imbibed it, once I took it in and I swallowed it, it began to have its action, on my not just on my mind, but on my whole body, to try to contain that little nugget of wisdom. And I said, "Oh, I bet you I'm going to sleep for hours." And when she dropped me off at home, I think it was around 4:30 in the late afternoons, around 4:30. And I came in and I went to bed, and I slept until 10 o'clock this morning from 4:30. I was completely wiped out physically. And that's why I know that when Buddha Master says you're going to have to get your bodies in shape to handle the level of wisdom you want, that he's not kidding. We've been talking about it ever since he said it. And, every once in a while I do one of these, and oh boy, that was hard. And and that's it. And I can remember years ago when Nancy kept trying to help me get more fit, because diabetes has a way of working on and killing off your organs. And she was saying there are things you have to do, Panawati. I know you don't feel like it, but you're losing mobility here, you're losing mobility there. I can help you with that, if you let me. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna call you, okay, and but how I wish I had, because it's even harder now. I was listening to a song that I sang a couple of years ago, and I just sang that song, and I could hardly sing it. My vocal cords are so I don't know whether it's brittle or it's flabby. I don't know, but it's messed up, and I don't have um, the um, the amount of breath that I had, and I think back of how I wasted a talent. When I was in college, I was training to be an opera singer and a classical pianist, and I can't hardly play chopsticks now. So just letting things go to waste, these marvelous talents that are in us for expression in this life. Now, most of us have maybe missed this time, and maybe at there's a old saying, I think it's in the, yes, it is. It's in the Bible. It says, at the time you should be teachers, you are having, you need someone to give you like the first oracles. So it means that at the time that we should be teachers, somebody is having to teach us like we are children. What a shame, what a waste of life. But we're not dead yet. We just have to get focused. We're not dead yet. We're working diligently to remove distractions at Heartwood, letting go of the things that we've built up, these big things, because it's not about those things. It's about having uh, the small dedicated flock that can do extraordinary things to make a huge impact on the greatest amount of people. And for yourself, you can't even have too many cooks in a kitchen. You don't say the more the better, because it's not true. That's a worldly perspective. But when we fold in and we and get linked together and unified, a small number can perform extraordinary feats, and then we can teach others how to do the same things. And so, the first thing is we have to revise our understanding of what meditation is, and you'll notice that for at least, I don't know, maybe this whole year, I haven't been spending much time on meditation, because every time we get excited about something in the Dharma, we think, oh, I got to meditate more and I got to get rid of self. And this is how I get rid of self. I drop off the 5 aggregates of form, feeling, perception, volition, and sensory consciousness, because that's what we were taught and how we were taught it. And it takes a long time when we've been practicing like that for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and it's in every book. It's difficult. And so when we picked up the Supreme and Unsurpassable Mahamudra of Liberation and we started trying to practice, we got immediately overwhelmed. We couldn't handle anything. You know, when there was the talk about, you know, experiencing the suffering of others, and not just like mentally thinking about the suffering of others, but so engaging yourself that you actually fully experienced it until it was actually burning you up, consuming you with stabbing pain. And then you have to learn how to soothe and correct it, because only then do you have it. Not just like breathing in and thinking about, I'm taking in the pain of all the people and I'm giving them my peace and calm. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about actually bearing about the suffering of others in our bodies and within our mind stream, and having the power to neutralize it. So you can only take on what you can neutralize. So good thing you can't take on a lot, because you burn yourself up. You die from the friction and the pain of it, you know. So it's okay if it's steady as she goes, little by little, but we have to understand what these things really mean. That's all I'm saying. I don't care who wrote the books. We have to really understand what the Dharma is saying. And those books have to measure up to the Dharma. If we don't know the Dharma, then we can't speak of the efficacy of the books, because the efficacy of the books will only meet up to what the other books or those books tell us the truth is. But you got to know the truth for yourself. And so we have to be careful. I don't care how famous they are. I don't care how many books they have. And I don't even want to vector off into that conversation about these famous people who sell all of these books and who look like angels, and yet they hide and harbor these masters who have been abusing women and committing all kinds of unseemly acts. And I don't want anything from them, because all of it is polluted. So we have to kick over our sacred cows, people, is what I'm saying to you. I'd like to, and in reading about Great Mother Mofu's, the accolades that were given to her about this, and really kind of grasping it in a spiritual sense, and in like a non-artsy sense, because I'm not qualified to evaluate, art, except to know how something moves you in this world. They talked about the mastery level that they assigned to her. And within the world of ink art, there's 4 levels of mastery. The first one is the class, or they call them classes, classes of distinction. It's the class of proficiency. I mean, you have fully mastered your craft or your art. You have fully mastered it. Whatever you're good at. If you're good at counseling, if you're good at speaking, if you're good at singing, if you're good at making things, if you're good at fixing things, if you're good at whatever it is, it says developing the class of proficiency. So that's just the first level of mastery, though. So when we're talking right now about proficiency in the Dharma, know that that's not the highest. There's even all kinds of levels of Buddhas. That's why they define them, like the Anuttara Samyak Buddha. That's the highest of all the Buddhas. But there are other levels of Buddhas as well. But if one doesn't know that, then even if someone has been acknowledged by the masters as a Buddha, then, oh, there was only one Buddha, and that was Shakyamuni. It shows your ignorance, because even he talked about the innumerable Buddhas. So we shouldn't listen to people who don't know. So there is that first level of mastery, is the master of proficiency. The second level of mastery is the mastery of wonderment. I mean, now, I don't know what level that is, but just the word wonderment, the mastery of wonderment, gives you the idea that they're a little bit more than just proficient, right? That they have created something that brings about, that inspires awe. It's awe-inspiring in its greatness. The third class is the class of divinity. So it ascends beyond the worldly realms into the realms of the gods. And the fourth moves beyond even the realms of the gods, those planes of existence, to the class of ease, E-A-S-E. Now, if we take that and we examine what we've been talking about, even with our meditation and misunderstanding this, you could apply these to the stages of mindfulness of meditation. And instead of dropping down into a hole, a black hole of nothing, one would see the trajectory. So he talks about these things being in the first jhana and the second jhana, the third jhana and the fourth jhana. They weren't descents, they were ascents. So we're moving to a place of proficiency, then to wonderment, on to divinity, and then we arrive at the correct kind of ease. Are you listening to me? Because I'm going to talk about this for a while. And so I'd like to read you a little bit from our notes in imparting the absolute truth through the Heart Sutra. And of course, we know that the sutra has not been released yet, but as many as are able go out to the temple in Sangha, and we went out for 30 and spent 30 days reading it and taking notes. And so these are only unapproved notes that cannot be taken as the absolute words of Buddha Master, but still in their deficient form, I think they will help you some. And so I would like to share this. And this is in regards to how we might think about mindfulness or meditation and getting still and dropping off the 5 aggregates, and why we've been doing that for decades and we're not making any progress, because as soon as we come out of that state, we have to pick up all those aggregates to function in the world. And so just reading from, from our notes right now. And it says, I will now okay. What is meant by the dhyana, or we call it jhana, of complete elimination? The dhyana of complete elimination exists among disciples of mine. Some disciples already think that a state of dhyana is a kind of dhyana of complete elimination that entails totally emptying out all thoughts, such that a void is created. all phenomena are cast aside such that nothing is left. One enters a state of ordinary living beings, then, that is like a piece of wood, like a stone, devoid of any cognition. That is what is called the dhyana or the jhana of complete elimination. Now, I will briefly explain to you, disciples, the notions of emptiness derived from the extreme nihilism and the view of stubborn only in emptiness. Nihilism entails eradicating all conditioned dharmas in the world. Nihilists view all conditioned dharmas in the world as not being subject to cause and effect and not having an intrinsic nature, and they completely eradicate from their minds all conditioned dharmas. So that's when we're sitting here dropping off, these aggregates. Since everything has been eradicated, they naturally descend then into a state of emptiness. But this type of emptiness is called dead emptiness. Dead emptiness is a type of stubborn only emptiness state. And this is why going forth with the academy, we won't be teaching like topical things in the ways that we have academically learned Buddhist studies in the past, because all they do is they fix us around a conceptual understanding that takes us so far from what the truth is. Every day I get more and more insight on how to offer the Buddha Master's teaching. And when he said that this one teaching is the culmination of all the teachings, I can see it in the right way, with the right foundations laid, in the circling around, so that when we hear something this time, we can really understand it. That's what breaks the yokes of habitual tendency or fixed ideas and fixed notions. It's not undergoing another subject study, but it's in a living way, allowing it to swirl around, having movement and spirit. And in that way, an understanding easily comes. That's how children learn. That's how they learn. It says now, after one's intrinsic nature empties that dead emptiness, no utilization will be generated. All one knows is emptiness with nothing there. In such emptiness, any delight, awareness, feelings, hope, holy realizations, and features of the mental realm of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are also non-existent. Compared to entering into this stubborn emptiness only state, it might be better if one never learned from Buddha at all and is still going about and doing one's mundane matters in the world. Oh, what a sad indictment. The goal of learning from Buddha is to apply the wisdom of prajna to illuminate the state of reality and true thusness. And then, while remaining unattached in the midst of that state, generate marvelous utilization, realizing the emptiness of the one entity, the oneness, one can greatly utilize the whole. I want to repeat that, realizing the emptiness of the oneness, one can greatly utilize the whole. That is, only after realizing the single characteristic of emptiness can one greatly utilize the whole, experiencing good fortune and happiness. And when this occurs, this so-called great utilization means that there is not one thing you cannot do and not one thing you cannot utilize. So our whole idea of oneness, the circulating around today in the world about all of us getting together, it's not about all of us getting together and working on something at one accord. And it's impossible unless we are of one accord. And so you see groups coming together, trying to do this and trying to do that, but it's not about groups of people coming together to try to do things. It is about vibrating on the same frequency, the same wavelength, so that one and that one has a sense of totality. Yeah, they're on that wavelength of totality within themselves. They're total and whole within themselves. Now, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people who are whole can all come together. And there will be no drag. There will be exponential possibilities to do something, but we gotta each individually be whole. So we're only gonna be as whole as the lowest one is what I'm saying to you. And when one starts to work on this level, you know, this is where there's absolutely no room for egoism. Absolutely no room. Absolutely no place. It's where one is really called to the task of selflessness. The things that I don't want to do or that feel too hard for me to do because my body is not up to it, you know. But my resolve is not to not do it. My resolve is to get my body up to it. That's 2 different ways of approaching things. And it can be the difference between winning and forfeiting. So it says, when this occurs, this so-called great utilization means there's not one thing you cannot do and not one thing you cannot utilize. Humans, ordinary living beings, are only able to perform one utilization at a time based on one thought. When drinking tea, all they know is enjoying the tea and analyzing the taste of tea. This is called one utilization. When watching a play, all they know is watching the play. It would be impossible for them to watch a play and a movie at the same time. However, one who has truly achieved great utilization of the whole is able to do countless things all at the same time. He can simultaneously do a few dozen things, a few hundred things, a few thousand, 10,000, or even countless things. That is called great utilization of the whole. There's no place where he is unable, and there is no place that he is unable to do his deeds. There is no place where he is unable to enjoy all kinds of happiness. That is what prajna wisdom illumination by our Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is, and what the beneficial effects of Buddha Dharma that lead to the ending of the cycle of birth and death are. So what this means is that we shouldn't like just take this and ponder it. Pondering is one thing, applying is something else. I can have a rash and I can have the salve for the rash, and I can see and hear and ponder how good, boy, how good the testimonials are on this rash, on this salve for curing this rash, all I want. But if I don't open the jar, take the salve and rub it into the rash, it is not going to have any effect. And so we need to be able to apply these teachings, actually apply them at the places where we're challenged in our life, when we're called to do something that we don't think we want to do, or think that we can't do. We, we can find out what our capacity through confidence in the Dharma. That's what faith in the Dharma is, through confidence in the Dharma, to overcome even our shortcuts and even our handicaps. And so I was sitting there last night with the music and I said, well, suppose, my voice gets so that I can't sing anymore. And so the thought came, well, you could write songs, you could arrange songs, you can chord out songs for others who can sing to sing. Or maybe you can sing it and maybe it's not the song, but it's that stream that the song enters into, that is the spirit of the matter, that takes a person, that carries a person somewhere, and not thinking about, oh, just you have to have a beautiful voice. Maybe it's not about the voice at all, but that is simply the song is simply a vehicle for carrying the spirit of the words. I mean, we have plenty of people out here, singers today, who are like, they call us our top singers. I can tell you they can't sing a lick, and they sell millions of albums and use that money for whatever their life is. What if we did that and used our money for the sake of the Dharma? I heard something and it stuck with me yesterday. And I watched a documentary on David Bowie, and he simply said, he said, when he got into all kinds of financial trouble because he was just a creative. He just wanted to create, you know, and he went, broke many times, and he had agents and so forth. And, like, he didn't get any money. They made more money than he did. And and he said, and finally I decided to take charge of my finances myself. And he said, and this is what I will tell you, when I'm creating my music, I'm all about music. And when I'm selling my music, I'm all about selling. And he said, in this way, I enjoy the talents that I've been given. I can live in my world and at the same time have the ability to share, the great benefits of this music with people in the world. And I thought about that. And I said, we have to, be able to uh, do more than one thing. We have to be able to do all of what's necessary to make something happen. So sometimes, Buddha Master would say, we got the wrong idea about renunciation, or like for monks, and renouncing. And they translated that word as beggars. He said, I'm going to tell you, monks are not beggars. He said, whatever benefit comes from that being supported and sustained, by the people in the world, it inures to their benefit, as opposed to them giving something to the monks. Just a wrong concept and a wrong idea. And therefore, we don't even have a way, a means to get the Dharma out, because we have a good concept that somebody gave us, but we have not understood the principle. So it says, here it has been, and I'm getting ready to end, and I'm going to just read the rest of this so I can finish in 3 minutes or 4 minutes. Here it has been thoroughly explained that learning from Buddha is not about cultivating yourself into a lifeless stone. Rather, the eventually realized effects are happiness, doing whatever one wishes at will, transforming external objects with one's mind, and great utilization of the whole. At this time, one exhibits all kinds of dignified deportments and attends to all kinds of matters, while remaining in one's original nature of imperturbability. All day long, one rushes about, taking care of worldly endeavors, but all for the purpose of saving living beings. And that way, all worldly deeds that one does is for the ultimate truth. Having reached this level, one does not descend into nihilistic emptiness or stubborn only emptiness. After one realizes the state of prajna in all of the dignified deportments that one exhibits, in all of one's matters, in all of one's dignified acts, including the act of expounding the Dharma, in all of the things that one does, including all worldly things, one's original nature remains unmoved. One's original nature remains unmoved. Such people abide in their original nature while engaging in worldly social activities all day long. They rush about taking care of worldly endeavors. Now, he didn't say we rush about like indulging our pleasures, but we find things to do that benefit people all day long, where we used to spend it all day consumed on our lusts. Your mind will change. Now, sometimes we can get an idea that this is not what, when we first start reading this, and we'll run off and start, oh, well, I don't have to be a monk, or I don't have to do this. I can serve the world by doing this. But what we have to do is make sure that what we're doing now is operating from one's original nature, not that we've gone back into the world and we're just doing our thing now and calling it spiritual. Okay, so I'm just saying, all day long they rush about taking care of worldly endeavors, all for the purpose of saving living beings. They are extremely busy the whole day. Even picking a stone up from the ground is done for the sake of saving living beings. In everything that they do, they benefit sentient beings while abiding in the state of Dharma nature and true thusness. So you can know whether you're operating in a worldly, mundane sense or in a spiritual sense by where your heart and mind are grounded as you do the things that you do. The motivation in which you do them. So saving living beings cannot be separated from worldly phenomena. The salvation of living beings has to have worldly phenomena as its foundation, as its basic cause. For example, during their cultivation, some people at all times and all places focus their attention on their own actions and state of realization. And they are constantly fettered by this and therefore do not do anything. That's not saving living beings. Those who truly save living beings do a myriad of things every day after entering into prajna wisdom. This includes handling work-related matters, doing business, writing essays, manifesting their abilities in the 5 vidyas, and so on. All are done to serve the purpose of saving living beings. So after we do our work, we should be doing the kind of meditation practice that when we get up from there, then we spend the rest of the day doing something, being busy for the sake of beings, not sitting around, thinking that we're spiritual, not, just constantly sitting around the whole rest of the day thinking about, quote, spiritual things, but we should be in action. We should be engaged. We should be doing things, handling work-related matters, doing business, writing essays, manifesting their abilities in the 5 vidyas. Like I've started, I usually practice on the day before choir rehearsal, but I've now set aside a certain amount of time every day that I practice. I can't talk about not having enough breath. I've invested in so much training materials. The whole choir has all the training materials. We don't work with any of it, not collectively, not individually, until 15 minutes before Dharma practice. Then we're putting on the exercise tapes. And we're singing them. But to be excellent means that we should be devoting some time of the day to this every day. Time that we spend at the golf course or at the tennis course or reading books, even if they're reading spiritual books. You have to read a little bit, you have to meditate a little bit more than that, and you have to put into practice in everyday life the rest of it. It says even the premise of their saving living beings requires them to handle matters well, avoid getting involved in all kinds of worldly entanglements, and avoid all demonic hostile conditions in the world. Then they can establish the environment, the conditions, the foundation, and freedom needed to save sentient beings. We can't be thinking about things that are of a negative or demonic, premise. Wondering about this and wondering about that and looking up something that serves no purpose whatsoever but to keep our minds in a low-level psychic place. We need to abandon all of those things. That's not who we are. And once we recognize that, we'll discard those things like some kind of soiled clothing, and we will put on our priestly garb. Um, you notice that in the Theravada um, tradition, all of the robes are all of the statuary is like in the robes from the charnel ground. You know, he was teaching people according to a particular mindset that they had of how people spent the last uh, 20 years of their life pursuing spiritual goal. And they had a way that they did it in India, and that was where he was. And so he started with what was already prevalent in India. And then he like vectored that off a little bit. For instance, they started with rags that they took off of dead bodies and they dyed them, you know, a certain color. Later, he changed up the color and the colors became different. The colors were also different from all of the other recluses of other traditions to separate out his teaching so that they would know those who uh, had on those colored robes, homeless wearing robes, were teaching a different thing than some of the other teachers of spiritual traditions. Then, you know, everything was done for a purpose, not like you just blindly doing it, but understanding the purpose of seeing uh, the method in what he was doing. And then times later, after a while, and they would sleep out in the woods. After a while, he started allowing, when they had reached a certain level of selflessness um, and self-discipline, then he allowed people to buy them places to live where they could live in a shelter and continue to do their practice, you know, in a shelter. But in those days, if you did any work, you were considered not worthy, that your mind wasn't focused on spiritual goals. So there they couldn't do any work. When the Dharma got over to China, and the Chinese were very industrious and so forth, and all of their masters had put forth so much discipline and commanded such great abilities, and the mindset of the people was such. In that same way, they worked hard. They didn't sit out in the field navel gazing all day, you know. But those masters used their powers to help save living beings, not just out there by themselves, you know, like out in the woods, sitting up under the tree all day, you know. But they went out to really help the people, be among the people, helping the people in physical real life ways. And so they had this mindset: if you don't work, you shouldn't eat. And so that's why you have the Chinese monks and nuns and people, spiritual people, are very industrious. They're always working. They have a great discipline. They spend long hours perfecting something. They get on something immediately and they get it done, you know. And you can see then what the depth you can see the depth of their proficiency in what they're able to produce and realize, even on an ordinary level, even lay people. Now in Tibet, a lot of that that was there eroded. It eroded so bad that Tibet had to be disbanded because it became like a theocracy. So the people were basically like just slaves to the monks, you know, and you can understand what that could be like because it's like that over here. And they're expecting us to be the same way because that's what they know. That's what they were been taught the last, I don't know, 1,500 years, how to subjugate the people while they just have tens of thousands of monasteries where monks are taken care of by the people who have nothing. And so it needed to be broken up and disbanded because it's gone in a wrong way. And we have to go back and reclaim those early teachings. That's why Buddha master, was a Namanikaya of Dorji Chang Buddha. The Vajradar, he was here to reestablish and set right what had been knocked over. But it's going to be hard for people to realize that. Because once we fix upon something what other people told us, we make that our truth. That's easier than trying to figure out the truth for ourselves. And it certainly takes a lot less effort. And so I'm ending now. And he says, even going shopping and buying very nice clothes to wear is also for the sake of saving living beings. Some people say that's not correct. That's greed and attachment. Such words are inappropriate and they're wrong. The reason is that after they realize the state of prajna, their wearing of clothes and your wearing of clothes are different. Their wearing of clothes is for projecting a dignified appearance. Their accomplishments in the 5 Vidyas are the offshoots of prajna wisdom, manifesting the abilities of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, which surpass the abilities of ordinary people. Thus, such deportment is also called the dignified deportment of accomplishment. Oh, I wish I could go on, but I need to end here now. And I'm saying, I'm encouraging you within your spiritual practice to develop, cultivate the ability to transcend time, something that was fixed in time, some bit of learning, some bit of knowledge that you had, some bit of growth. Don't stay there. Don't stay a 2-year-old your whole life. Cultivate the ability to transcend time until you can reach the class of proficiency. And then don't stay there, go on to the class and earn the class of wonderment. But don't stop at the class of wonderment, reach the class of divinity. And finally, if you keep going, even from there, you will reach the class of ease. And you do it there, not by killing off the aggregates, because you have to use these aggregates to accomplish anything in the world. You need your form. You need feeling. You need perception. You need volition. And you need sensory consciousness. It's just a matter of letting them all be informed by prajna. May you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you and no danger. May you always be able to meet the inevitable difficulties of life. Thank you. Have a Merry Christmas and happy holidays and happy Hanukkah for those who are Jewish and whatever Muslims do. You know, Muslims considered Jesus a great prophet. They just didn't consider him the son of God. So just giving respect to and honor to who respect and honor is due, regardless of whether, you know, they are of your tradition or not. Truth has no particular tradition.